Well, they say everything is bigger in Texas, and that includes the racing and this week's edition of Around the Track. Welcome inside the fastest half hour in sports. I'm your host, Gabe McDonald. As we get closer to the summer, we're making a stop at a track that drivers have a love-hate relationship with. One of them still in search of his first win at Texas. It's RFK owner and driver of the number 6, Brad Keselowski, who is in Garage Confidential this week. Plus, we preview the upcoming All-Star race with the reigning winner, Joey Logano, and the man that brings the drip and the knowledge, Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic, is back in the building as well. So let's go ahead and two-step down to the Lone Star State and drop the green flag for this weekend's race. It's going to be a shootout in Fort Worth. Texas Motor Speedway is NASCAR's litmus test to see who is the standard. We're back to a mile-and-a-half racing for the next 3 weeks, and we're starting with speed. Texas is where you'll find the fastest speeds at any intermediate track on the circuit, which really tells you where to stack up against the rest of the teams. This track does not have the bumps other tracks have that slow you down, but it takes more than speed to win here.
Texas is just so unique, and it's such a challenge to get around that place. Turn 1 and 2 is so tricky, and then 3 and 4 is tricky for completely different reasons, and we've honestly just had a lot of bad days there. So I'm excited to get back there and try to overcome that. Strategy's tricky there.
You can't just be poor in 1 and 2 and really good in 3 and 4. You have to be really good in 3 and 4, or really good in 1 and 2, and pretty good in 3 and 4. So it just you have to be good at everything at this level. You can't sacrifice one end of the track and try to make up for it on the other.
Well, Track Trends is pretty ironic this week because the trend here is a different winner every time. The last 8 Cup races at Texas Motor Speedway were won by 8 different drivers. The track record is 13 different winners between 1998 and 2007. Xfinity-wise, only 2 regulars in the starting lineup have wins here. That's Sam Mayer and Harrison Burton. Watch out for the Hendrick boys. As always, they've won 3 of the last 4 races here. The only one who hasn't, who you just heard from recently, Alex Bowman. And beware of late cautions as well. The final green flag stretch was 6 laps or less in 3 of the last 4 Texas races. Denny Hamlin loves the Lone Star State as well. He leads all drivers in laps run in the top 5 and the top 10 at Texas in the next-gen car since 2022. And we have a nice little rotation here of the best NASCAR analysts and journalists, but when this guy is here, the whole studio listens, and I get a few fashion tips in the process. One of the best in the business, Jordan Bianchi, is back with us. Jordan, everything is bigger in Texas.
It is, and this race is bigger. And when I say that, it's the biggest challenge. This is one of the most challenging tracks in NASCAR. Drivers have a love-hate relationship. A lot of hate, not a lot of love. Last year's race had a lot of cautions. A lot of drivers made mistakes. I think you're going to see the same thing happen on Sunday.
Absolutely. We got to start with breaking down the track itself. Finally back to an intermediate track this weekend. We've had a lot of variety over the first 10 races this season, but now we're really about to see some speed this weekend. Not too much grip on the outside lines here, but it's certainly a challenge. In Texas, truly one of the favorites out of all the mile-and-a-halves. Why is that among the garage?
It's just one of those tracks that, like, listen, if you come here, you don't have fluke winners. You have to be great at everything. Great engine, great aero, great pit crew. There's a lot of green flag pit stops. You can't make mistakes as a driver, so this rewards excellence.
Absolutely. We just talked about it last week as well, asking if it was the week for Team Penske to finally get into victory lane. They did just that. Austin Cindric able to hold on and get the team's first win this year, just the 3rd of his career, 2nd on the Super Speedway, of course. They've had strong cars all year. How is he able to get it done, and what can this win do for the team going forward as they finally got a win?
Cindric is so good on mile-and-a-half racetracks, or super speedways like Daytona, drafting tracks. It was just a matter before he got back in victory lane. And really for Team Penske, every week this year they've been fast. They just haven't been able to convert that into wins. Really not a surprise at all that Penske won last week. Now let's see if they can continue this, because closing out races has been a big challenge for them.
Especially for Ryan Blaney as well. I mean, what do you make of just, the struggles this year, leading the garage 2 and DNFs before so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's had probably the fastest car. If you look at top 5 laps, run the top 5 laps led, those kind of things. He's consistently been the best, but he hasn't been able to finish races. Bad luck, just being caught up in mistakes. Last week, getting onto pit road, somebody slammed into him. Not his fault. That's just the way it goes.
Definitely see if he can get it done. And while Team Penske got a much-needed win out of Talladega, Texas, all about the Hendrick Chevys. We just talked about it. Hendrick Motorsports, 12 wins all-time at Texas, including 3 of the last 4. Jordan, we know HMS is a premier team in the sport, but why have they been so successful here in particular?
I mean, this is a track this rewards the best teams, and Hendrick is the best organization. They've got the most resources. Mile-and-a-half racetracks tend to favor the teams that bring the best cars. Hendrick does that year in and year out. They also have a guy named Kyle Larson and Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson over the years as well.
Alex Bowman, a guy that of the 3 guys that have won, hasn't won here. What's it going to take for that 48 team to possibly get get into victory lane because they've been strong too.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of guys, it's about closing out. He's had moments this year. He's been very, very fast. Bad luck, though. Hasn't been able to finish some races, and he just kind of need to get over that hump. And that's the thing with Bowman. A lot of speed, not a lot of results necessarily correspond with that speed.
You'll see if that luck can turn around. And, of course, it wouldn't be a Jordan Bianchi show if we didn't have some type of legal news to cover. He's all over it. We do an update. We do have an update in the Rick Ware Legacy Motor Club charter lawsuit. Rick Ware trying to get out of selling it, and Jimmy Johnson and his team. Jordan, something about the contract is holding this up in court right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it basically comes down to years. Legacy wants this deal to be completed for next year. Rick Ware says, no, we want it for 2027. They're in court kind of wrangling over the finer points of this contract. We'll see how this shakes out, but ultimately it's going to be about money and dollars and zeros. That ended up speaking at the end of the day. We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if it plays out sooner rather than later. Of course, always on top of the news, anything going on in NASCAR. And good news for you at home, Jordan isn't going anywhere. He's got a little bit more two-stepping to do. Meanwhile, our next guest is looking to two-step into victory lane this weekend.
We haven't had a great start to the year, but the way the NASCAR schedule works, the way the NASCAR points work, like there's always time to recover.
As he looks to climb from being 32nd in points, Brad Keselowski feels good about the upcoming stretch of tracks. Up next, RFK owner and driver the number 6 joins us in Garage Confidential. And so close, yet so far. With another week comes another controversial finish in the Xfinity Series. Up next, we catch up with the man on the unfortunate end of last week's finish at Talladega in the Ag Pro 300. And another top driver in the Cup Series wants a shot at NASCAR's second-tier series, kind of showing how it's done. Who is it? We'll tell you when Around the Track continues.
Welcome to NASCAR Xfinity Series. Start your engine!
NASCAR Xfinity Series, Saturday. Check your local listings.
But, man, I tell you one thing. I used to think there was no way I would sign up for super speedway racing, but I would love, love, love. Joe Gibbs Racing, if you're hearing this, sign me up for an Xfinity super speedway race. That is how racing used to be. That's how good we used to have it, and we just never knew it.
Well, we'll make this happen, Coach, after multiple Cup drivers come after the Xfinity Series, including the 11. Denny Hamlin now says he wants in it. The 2311 co-owner explaining on his podcast, Actions Detrimental, that super speedway racing in the Xfinity Series produces what it should be at the top level. He credits RCR's program, in which Austin Hill currently dominates. If Denny does go forward, you can watch the Xfinity Series on the CW. Back here with Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic Force, we've had Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin vocal about how they need to fix the Xfinity Series. What would it take for, obviously, Denny to run? And, I mean, just how, exciting would that be for fans and everybody?
I mean, for fans in general, you get to see the Cup drivers on Saturday race. That's always a big deal. And Denny's consternation about this, he's just really frustrated about the super speedway package in the Cup Series right now. And this is kind of his way of firing another shot across the bow, saying, hey, if the racing isn't going to be up to the standard I want it to over here, I'm just going to go race over here then. And so there's just a little bit of frustration right now. And Denny likes to say things sometimes. I will say this, if he wants to do it, it's really easy to make it happen because he's got a team owner who runs in both series.
Absolutely. We're interested to see the number 11 make that move to the Xfinity Series as well. Well, NASCAR's next big driver is sitting this weekend out in the Xfinity Series. Connor Zilisch not competing at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. It's due to that hard wreck that we saw in the final lap at Talladega last week. We're told he's trying to nurse a lower back injury. Here's the interesting part, though. The man who's had plenty to say about the Xfinity Series, who we just mentioned, former Cup Series champion Kyle Larson, is actually going to be filling in for Zilisch. Connor has already gotten a playoff waiver through NASCAR to make it to the postseason. With the Xfinity Series, Jeb Burton is putting his dramatic second-place finish in Talladega to bed. The 27 car had already won twice there and nearly completed the hat trick before a final lap caution came out, and NASCAR officials deemed Austin Hill the winner, with his car's nose just in front of Burton's at the time of that final caution. Burton, understandably very emotional post-race, and talking with him earlier this week, he's moving on, but also remained adamant about his car, how his car should have finished.
If the yellow doesn't come out, we win the race, no problem. If they throw the yellow, maybe a split second later, the momentum, we win the race, no problem. So for us, winning that race is just a huge accomplishment for a little team. All these guys in the shop work really hard. I mean, we've got 35 employees here. We're racing against teams that's got 400 to 600 employees. So it still stings, it's frustrating, but we'll go to Texas and try to have a good run there.
Well, how is this for proof the Xfinity Series can stand on its own? The return of Rockingham Speedway has been deemed an outstanding success, not only by fans, but by NASCAR itself. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell says due to its success over Easter weekend, the Rock is now being considered for another round in next season's schedule. All O'Donnell could say is that they're going to monitor the situation and that they would love to make it a staple. For the people who didn't go to the sold-out race, they did watch it on the CW, making it the 11th race in a row with 1 million-plus viewers in the Xfinity Series. When the NASCAR Cup Series, Brad Keselowski is one of the longest active drivers in the top level of the sport, having accomplished nearly everything that the sport could present. But that said, he's still looking for more. The driver of the number 6 caught up with our own Joey Ellis to share more on his racing journey in this week's Garage Confidential.
Brad Keselowski drives the number 6 Ford for RFK Racing. Just first want to touch on just the season to date, 9 races in for you. How do you kind of sum up how it's been for you so far?
The NASCAR season is a grind, and so, being 9 races in, about 25% of the season as we run 36 races as a whole. In fact, it's exactly 25%. You just try to take it one race at a time, and for us, we haven't had a great start to the year, but the way the NASCAR schedule works, the way the NASCAR points work, there's always time to recover. So, I think we're looking fully ahead with the 6 car and what does it take to win the races in front of us, and we've got a lot of great tracks that I feel like we can run well at.
You said it hasn't maybe been the best start. What do you think is to point to for?
Yeah, a number of things have kept us from having the start we want to have, and some things that I probably could have done a little bit different, and a little bit of bad luck, a little bit of issues where we could have just executed as a team better. All those pieces have to come together to be a winner in NASCAR.
Then looking down the road, the weekend after to Texas, what is it about a weekend there that you enjoy as a racer?
Texas has been a great track for us. I've had a number of good runs there, particularly in the next-gen car. I feel like we've been right on the verge of winning. We finished second there last year, but been right on the verge of winning there 2 out of the last 3 races, and I'd like to punch through and get that cowboy hat. I must have a half a dozen or more second-place finishes at Texas, but hungry to get the big trophy on Sunday.
I mean, how tough is that too, being so close to winning there especially, but just not getting over that hump? But you have the experience, obviously, to go deep into a race like that. What is that feeling? Oh,
it's entirely, frustrating when you've been so close and led so many laps and, won stages and done everything but bring home the checkered flag. But, it's a great reminder that, on any given weekend, some of the best race car drivers in the world are competing at this level, and only one will win.
You've been doing this for a long time, and, you've accomplished pretty much everything in the sport, Cup Series champion. What more still is there for you to conquer in this sport?
I just want to win more races.
Yeah.
I want to win another championship. I want to build a team and be a part of something special.
How do you do that? How do you just...
Yes, it's a good question. I ask myself that every day, Joey. It's a labor of love to build a team. There's a lot of dynamics. People are always coming and going, and you have to accept that. I think servant leadership is a critical aspect of any type of team building. And I'm on the side now with my, experience and age, candidly, to be able to help others be successful, and I just enjoy that challenge.
Recent news of the Cup Series championship moving from Phoenix now to Homestead, Miami, back to Homestead, Miami. Does that impact you at all, drivers at all, or is that just something where you're showing up where you have to?
Yeah, as a race car driver, and part of a race team, we let NASCAR set the rules, whether it's the tracks we race at or how the car is coming together, and we just try to be better than everybody else at it. So, I don't get terribly caught up on those decisions as long as we're going where the fans want us to be.
Thanks again to Brad and RFK for the time earlier this week. Well, it's safe to say that chipper fingers turned to Twitter fingers after Talladega. Next, the post-race rant seen everywhere with the legend on the diamond going after a legend on the track. And before you know it, North Wilkesboro will be in the spotlight again for NASCAR's All-Star Weekend. Up next, a look ahead of what is now a full 4-day celebration of the history of the sport. That's next on Around the Track. Back here on Around the Track, just 2 weeks after making his return to NASCAR at Rockingham in the Xfinity Series, NASCAR great Kasey Kahne is now heading back to a track where he's won in the Cup Series. Added this weekend's Wurth 400, Kahne will serve as the honorary pace car driver. One of the sport's 75 greatest drivers, Kahne is part of the closest Cup Series finish at Texas Motor Speedway, finishing second to Elliott Sadler by .028 seconds in 2004. Kahne would then pick up his only win at Texas in the 2006 spring race. Well, back here with NASCAR reporter Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic. NASCAR full of drama year after year, fights in the pits, drivers calling out other drivers. But how about a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer calling out a driver? I don't think that's something that either one of us had on our bingo card. But it is true, folks. Avid NASCAR fan and Atlanta Braves Hall of Fame third baseman Chipper Jones took to the internet earlier in the week to call out driver Joey Logano in a not-so-subtle tweet. Chipper congratulated Austin Cindric on his win at Talladega, but in the same breath came at Joey Logano for his outburst against his teammate. Jones took to X to call out Logano on being a selfish teammate and even tagged Logano to make sure he was clear who his comments were aimed toward. And later, after Logano had been disqualified from the race, Jones tweeted, quote, "My day just keeps getting better," end quote. Safe to say Chipper isn't a fan of the Team Penske driver. Jordan, real quick, what do you think of the back and forth that we saw between the two of them this week? Obviously, Chipper Jones grew up near Daytona and watching the sport too, but I didn't think it would get that far, but still pretty interesting stuff early in
The funny thing is like Joey Logano has no idea where the animosity came from. Like all of a sudden, just like Chipper Jones came out of nowhere and just hit him with a baseball bat, and Joey's like, I didn't do anything. I've never met this guy before. Why does he hate me? But yeah, I guess Chipper's not a Joey Logano fan.
Yeah, I mean, still in the post-race interview too. I mean, you know, he kind of was a little bit. He didn't really necessarily congratulate his teammates. So I think the tension there. Do you see that kind of getting hashed out?
Yeah, this is super speedway racing. It happens. There's a lot of things said over the radio. You need to let that go. This is not the first time. Logano's known for outbursts on the radio. This is water under the bridge.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the driver, the 22, he's made his way to North Wilkesboro earlier this week to preview the upcoming All-Star race coming up in 2 weeks. Around the Track's Kevin Connolly caught up with Logano and has more on what to expect during a now 4-day celebration of NASCAR.
The last two All-Star races at North Wilkesboro were dominated by one driver, first Kyle Larson and then last year Joey Logano. NASCAR is hoping to avoid one driver running away from the field, so a promoter's caution has been added that will happen between laps 101 and 220 to bunch the field back together.
I think we secretly have had those at times, but now we actually have them. It's actually in the rule book, so all right. I'd say, you know, I think all of us are going to treat lap 200 to 220, obviously knowing there will be a caution in there. You know, and you're going to probably most likely work your strategy around that and what you're going to need for a short run to finish the race, right? So I think you've pretty much, if you're a race fan, you can guarantee you're going to have an action-packed 30 laps at the end of the race.
Looking back to last season, Logano had not won a race entering the All-Star race. He used his victory at North Wilkesboro as a springboard to the championship after a strong second half to the season.
You know, it'd be nice to click off some wins. I remember when we won the race, it was bittersweet at the moment because I was like, it's great we won that All-Star race, we won $1 million. I'm like, gosh, I wish this was for points. You know, like at the moment, that's how I felt.
Logano also in the media crosshairs this week after his profanity-laced tirade on his radio directed at teammate Austin Cindric for what Logano thought was Cindric abandoning team strategy at the end of stage 2 at Talladega.
Way to go, Austin. Way to go, you dumb. Way to go. What a stupid. He just gave it to him. Gave a Toyota stage win. Nice job.
Your teammate's like your brother, you know, like you're going to have every now and again, you're not going to see eye to eye, right? It's your brother, but you're still family, right? You still got to figure out how to handle it.
There was a team meeting at Penske Racing to iron out the issues, and Logano's ready to turn the page.
It's not my place to air our dirty laundry in public, right? You don't do that with your family, you don't do that with your team, and you know, we come to you know, we set it all out on the table, you know, and here's where my frustrations were, and I believe he understood it, and you know, just move on from here.
Like we said, it's water under the bridge. When our last trip to Texas, we saw a long-awaited return to victory lane for Chase Elliott. Will we see another winless streak snap this weekend? We got odds and our picks next, right here on Around the Track. Back here on Around the Track, NASCAR in the Lone Star State, and here's who Vegas thinks will take the checkered flag this weekend. Kyle Larson, the favorite. He has 2 wins in 20 trips to Texas Motor Speedway, but hasn't won there since 2021. Right behind him, William Byron at 6-1 odds. Byron won there in 2023 and finished 3rd last season. Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell, 3 straight Toyotas round out the top 5 to get it done at Texas. Well, we got the odds. We know the track. Now it's time to make our picks. Jordan, who do you like to win the race this weekend in the Lone Star State?
Texas rewards the best drivers, the best teams. That makes it easy to go with Kyle Larson. This is a great track for him. He's won here before. I expect him to win again.
Absolutely. A dominant run so far. And I mean, he has obviously wins earlier this year, winning at Bristol, winning at Homestead. So we'll see if he can make it 3 trips to victory lane this weekend. Well, I'm going with another one of the heavy favorites. Give me Tyler Reddick to get it done this weekend. First of all, love the paint scheme, and obviously the little nod to his wife there on the top there on the door right there. But first off, love the Jordan Brand paint scheme, like I said. Also had great runs in Texas, won the fall race in 2022, coming off a 4th place finish there last year. Also has a P2 in his career. 3 top 5 so far this year at a variety of tracks, including that 2nd place finish at Daytona. I think he is due for a win to get 2311 into victory lane. It'd be cool to see MJ celebrating as well. But Jordan, we talked about the mile-and-a-halfs all coming up throughout the month of May. 3 straight races. You have this one, you have Kansas, then you finish out the month with the Coke 600. Who do you like being able to take advantage of this stretch of mile-and-a-half?
Well, I mean, the easy thing is the Hendrick drivers, the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, the 2311 Racing drivers. This 3-week stretch of points races on mile-and-a-half racetrack is going to be the great opportunity for really kind of separate a little bit. We're really going to have a really good idea who's going to be in the hunt for the regular season points championship and who's kind of a pretender. It's a great opportunity to establish that.
Absolutely. Going to be a great month of racing in the month of May. Appreciate you tuning in to Around the Track. Enjoy the race this weekend at Texas. For Jordan Bianchi and Joey Ellis, I'm Gabe McDonald. We'll see you next week ahead of the race at Kansas.